Get started because this is such an important race. We have such a great turnout. We want to make sure there's plenty of time to hear from them. I'm Lynn Widmeyer, and I'm president of the League of Women Voters of Jefferson County. And I just wanted to make sure that everyone knows that the League of Women Voters is nonpartisan. We do not support or oppose any political party or candidate. And tonight is what the League of Women Voters tries to do our very best at, which is helping voters learn about who's running and to hear from them. So when you go in the ballot to vote, you have an idea of what each of the candidates stands for. So I would like to give a special thank you to the group that organized this of our league members, and that would be Chris Kinsella, Diane, now I'm going to mispronounce your name. Kyle Holtz, Ashley Sanders, and of course Patty Mulking-Corley, who is the moderator and has been a league member for not years. But what's really important about Patty is she's a retired school teacher. Oh. So, I have here, this is the League of Women Voters Kleenex box, for which we ask people to give us donations. Because when it comes to scheduling forms like these, renting space, getting out flyers, the cost is nothing to sneeze at. So if you could drop in a couple of dollars or contribution as you leave into our Kleenex box, you'll make sure that we have forums like this in the fall for even more elective offices. So with that, I will back away and turn it over to Patty.
We'll have questions from the league, followed by questions from the audience. We'll provide note cards for you audience members to write your question. Candidates will have 1 minute to answer each question, and the timer will alert you when your time is up. So, let's start down at the end there. Ms. Bratton.
Good evening. Thank you to the League of Women Voters of Jefferson County for inviting me to participate in your forum. I am Carmon Taylor Bratton. I'm a lifelong resident of Jefferson County. My elementary school, the elementary school I attended was South Jefferson. Then I went on to Charlestown Junior High, which is now Charlestown Middle School, and then on to Jefferson High. Back then, Jefferson was the only high school in our county. Serving on the Jefferson County Board of Education for the last 4 years has been rewarding, enlightening, and inspiring. I feel honored to serve our community. Along with serving on the board, I also tutor students, encouraging them to continue to be great with their reading and math. I mentor at-risk students at the Ranson Elementary School, volunteering with the PASS program. I'm a member of the Kiwanis Club in Shepherdstown and a Jefferson County Board of Education liaison for the Jefferson County Parks and Rec. I'm working close with them to develop the sensory park at the Shepherdstown Elementary School. I strive to bridge the gap between our community and the board. My motto is, let's keep the unity in our community. My door is always open. I'm only one phone call away, one email away, and one text away. I love our children, parents, and staff. I'm asking you to please vote for me on May 12th. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Ogden.
My name is Laurie Ogden. I'm going to stand up. That's okay. Sorry. My name is Laurie Ogden. I have served the board for the last 12 years. I've been married about 34 years. I was married at 12. I've raised 4 children here in Jefferson County Schools. I have 2 that serve in the Air Force, one that went to WVU, he's now a chemical engineer, and then one that is currently at WVU in the pre-med biology program. I feel like public education here in Jefferson County is strong. Can it be better? Yes, it can always be better. I'm always looking for great ways that we can make changes to that as we have a very, very big changing system. I'm committed to continue that hard work. I'm committed to work with partnerships as I have before with community, parents, and businesses. I would ask for your vote on May 12th to be able to continue that, and I look forward to the questions that we have. And I'm thankful to the league for inviting us here tonight to give us that opportunity. So thank you very much.
Ms. Elliot?
Hello, everyone. My name is Andrea Elliot. I am representing the Harpers Ferry district in the mountain. I just recently became a mom. I adopted a child out of the foster care system in West Virginia. It's an 11-year-old sweetheart. One of the reasons why I am running for Board of Education is because he is now attending Blue Ridge Elementary School. And I thought to myself, how can I support this school and other schools in the area to help get those supports that they need, and that's that information. But my history, my background is I'm a social worker. I have a master's in social work, clinical license in Maryland, and I'm about to be licensed in the state of West Virginia as well. I've always had a focus on family and children. I've always advocated for them. I'm advocating for them now in the foster care system as I bring more children into my home. My son and I both. Also, I've worked for Child Protective Services, and I've been an advocate for them for physical abuse and neglect. So I just want to give back to my community.
Ms. Gugulis, before you start, hold the microphone close. Some people in the back were saying.
There's another microphone in the middle of the table there.
Okay.
This way?
Okay.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kathy Gugulis. I'm running for Board of Education because I want to serve my community. I know that schools are the foundation of this community, and education is a great equalizer. So I think it's critically important that we make sure that all of our kids get a great education, academic excellence, safe and welcoming environment. I moved to Charlestown a few years ago after a long career at the Department of Agriculture and Department of Justice. And as a former senior executive, I bring some skills that might be unusual to the board, but supervising human resources, training, budget and accountability, information technology and contracts. So I bring a high degree of accountability and transparency to the system. I grew up in Bel Air, Maryland, which is north of Baltimore, kind of a town like Charlestown. My degree is in journalism from the University of Maryland, College Park. And I think that the skills I learned in journalism school and with economics and English helped me open doors that I never thought would be open to me during my career. So again, I'm really committed to making sure that people have a strong education in all the basics. And on May 12th, please vote for me. Thank you.
Ms. Friend? Good evening. Thank you all for spending your evening with us, and to the league for putting this on. This is lovely. I am Natalie Grantham Friend. I live in Middleway. I am a lifelong resident of Jefferson County and a proud product of Jefferson County Schools. I have a degree from Shepherd University as well as an associate's from James Rumsey, where I hold my journeyman's license. I believe in public education. I think we all just really as a society benefit from good public education. And I do have an interest. I still have 2 children in the system. My oldest child graduated last year from Washington High. And I have another son at Washington, and then my youngest son is at Charlestown Middle. That's just it. I believe we all benefit from public education. I was raised by West Virginia school teachers. My mom is over there in the back. And my pledge is that I will use my common sense for the common good.
Good evening. I'm Kathy Skinner, a mother and Army wife of 32 years, an Army mom, a resident of Jefferson County since 2003, and an admirer of Jefferson County since 1988 when my husband and I first started dating. I've served on the Jefferson County Board of Education since July of 2014 and currently serve as president. With a BBA in accounting from the College of William & Mary, an MBA from the University of Texas at Austin, and credentials as a CPA and currently the CFO of Skinner Law Firm, I bring steady, results-focused leadership and strong financial oversight to support student success. I have a long record of service to the community. For more than 2 decades before being elected, I showed up for Jefferson County Schools as a parent volunteer, serving as a PTO officer for 3 schools, local school improvement councils for 3 schools, wellness committee at Page Jackson Elementary. At the county level, I served multiple years on the calendar committee, a 5-year strategic planning committee. At the state level, I'm currently serving on the executive committee of the West Virginia School Board Association. My husband Andrea and I have 4 children, all who went through Jefferson County Schools from K through 12, giving me a parent's perspective and proven commitment to keeping our schools focused on students, families, and results. Thank you.
And Mr. Seiler.
Good evening. My name is Scott Seiler, and I'm a father and a veteran, a combat veteran, and I'm a school teacher in special education. Many people in this room I both love and respect, and they are the glue of our community. I want to run for Jefferson Board of Education because I believe what happens in our schools shapes the future of our entire community. For me, this is deeply personal. At Spring Mills High, where I work, I come in every day with students who are doing their best to overcome real challenges. And I see their effort. I also see their frustration. And I see how much they need our support, our love, and our understanding, and how just a little positive thing can change their lives. And that stays with you. So I see the burden our teachers are carrying out, the pressures, their expectations, how much this county is growing. Buildings are springing up like mushrooms next to the Home Depot as we speak. And this experience is impacting all of us. What I bring is calm and a steady approach to the Board of Education. I would listen carefully. I would ask very good questions. I would focus on facts, and I am an economist and am working on a master's degree in economics, as well as holding an earned doctorate, a degree in counseling, and a degree in maritime transportation. So I'm multi-certified. I'm not running to push an agenda. I'm just running because I care about our students. Students first.
Thank you. I should mention that the 8th candidate, Raynell Jones, has dropped out of the race. Now, her name will still be on the ballot, but she has dropped out. So, and thanks, Ms. Bratton, for that information. So, okay, start with questions from the league. And why don't we start with you, Mr. Seiler? What qualities do you have that would make you a good collaborator with families and the students you would be elected to serve?
Well, the qualities that I would bring is personal day-to-day observation and engagement with the parents, with their feelings, and also the students. I will go to work tomorrow, I'll still work with parents. I've got a caseload right now of about 25 people, so they are special to me, as well as the 1,600 souls. In Jefferson County, I realize it's 23 miles away from Washington High School, but I worked there a year, love that place. And I think that what we can do and what I'm going to bring is actual experience, a voice for teachers, a voice for parents, and of course, students are first.
Ms. Skinner?
Well, the perfect example of collaborating with families is listening. And I think we did a pretty good job of that last week at our board meeting when we listened to over 2.5 hours of public comment. We can't always fix everything, but we can certainly listen and try to react the best we can from listening to that.
Ms. Brent?
If you know me, you know I'm a genuine, friendly person. I've never really met a stranger. I'm always happy to have a conversation and to listen and do my due diligence and follow up. I may not have the answer, but my pledge is that I will figure it out.
Ms. Gugulis?
Thank you. As a trained facilitator, I did a lot of team building with many different problem-solving teams at work. And what I have is skills in communication and listening to people and trying to find solutions without jumping to a solution, but look at the root causes and build a community of consensus to get to a solution.
Ms. Elliot?
Oh, we're going this way. Thank you. Well, I do have 9 years' experience at this point working with families and their children together, and I do believe that parents know their kids best. So having them in at the table is very important, and you can do that easily by acknowledging that they are stressed or they're struggling, and also acknowledge that they're stressed and struggling about their children. It could be tests, it could be bullying, it could be anything. That acknowledgement is really important. But bringing them to the table to find solutions, real solutions, I think is what would be helpful at this point, because I think it's gonna take all of us. It's gonna take the community, the parents, the teachers, the support staff, principals, all of us, to be able to create a really great environment in school. And keeping them out is not gonna be effective.
Ms. Ogden?
I would say my first quality is that I genuinely do love people, and I love to see people and students and staff successful. So saying that, having worked in the county ever since I moved here, 20 years, as well as having lots of opportunities to be a collaborator, whether it was in my job and bringing different pieces together, or examples of the ways that we've done that on the board. I have seen firsthand, if you miss an opinion, that's when you get in trouble. So you have to be able to collaborate with business partners, with parents, with students, with staff, and with administration. And I have seen many times where that ball has been dropped and where you suffer from that. So I would suggest that because I do have that knowledge, it does make it a little bit easier to think about that. I know Dr. Bishop sometimes does get frustrated because I do spend a lot of time calling him saying, hey, have we thought about this person? Hey, have we thought about this person? Hey, what does this person think? To where then he reaches back out. So thank you very much.
Ms. Bratton?
Thank you. My personality is one that I never meet a stranger. I love my family and I love everybody, so I often just see people as family. Listening and communicating, responding to all. If you send me an email, a text message or anything, I might not be able to get back to you right that moment, but I will respond, and my response will be transparent. I'm a very transparent person. So these are the qualities that would make me a good collaborator with parents and staff. Thank you.
Thank you. A 2026 RAND Corporation report done for the West Virginia Legislature recommends West Virginia overhaul its school funding formula to improve equity for low-income and special education students. The report found the state funding formula inefficient and convoluted. Main recommendation from the report is that the state institute an income-based cap on the HOPE voucher system. What is your stand on the HOPE voucher? And let's start with Ms. Elliot and go down that way and come up to you, Mr. Seiler.
The HOPE, the HOPE scholarship, I do agree that is necessary, but I also want to just say as well that it does take money from the public schools. I do recognize that, and it does, but it's a parent's choice to choose where they educate their children. And if they decide that the HOPE scholarship is something that works best for them, then I would agree that would be the way to go, because some kids are not returning back to school for reasons that are not even discussed, and there's mental health issues, there's just academic issues, there's all sorts of issues, and they're also learn better virtually. So we have to consider that. As far as the voucher goes, I think I somewhat agree with it because, but then I don't. I think that the people in poverty or people that are struggling financially should have the extra help. Equity across the board means equity across the board with education.
Okay, Ms. Ogden?
So I'd start with the overhaul of the funding formula. Yes, 100%. The funding formula, if you, it would take about a 45-minute presentation, but a quick synopsis. We have the same funding formula essentially by meaning how many staff members we can have in our schools, which is how we got in this issue that we've been dealing with athletics and the arts. If we employ a staff member over the certain number of days that the state says that we should, then we have to pay them by locally elected funds. That becomes an issue, and the state has now come down and said, you can't do that. We wanna make you cut those positions. We cannot have the same system in Jefferson County that they have in Monroe County, and that is how the funding formula is set up. The funding formula must be changed. As far as the Hope Scholarship goes, with the income piece, I do agree that I don't think it's fair that if you have $0 and you would like to be able to have access to that money, that you request, or that you get the same amount as somebody who has more money, because maybe you can't make up the difference. So it's still inequitable that if you don't have any money, you still don't have any other choices. My time is up, but we as a school board have a fiduciary responsibility to public education. So that is what we have to support. And I feel like that's a full stop.
Ms. Bratton?
I believe that the Hope Scholarship takes students out of our system. You take students out of our system and you take money out of our system. The funding formula does need to be looked at because it's like Ms. Ogden just said, the formula for some of the other counties can't be the same as Jefferson County. We actually really need to have that looked at, because it costs a lot more to live here than what it would in a lot of the other counties in the state of West Virginia. So you really can't, it really shouldn't be that everybody is looked at the same across the board. Thank you.
Before we move on to Mr. Seiler, if you would like to ask your question, Ms. Sanders has note cards. Just raise your hand and she'll come around. Okay? Okay. Mr. Seiler.
Hi, well, from what I understand, you got a question now?
No, I'm raising my hand.
From what I understand about to be clear, I'm a public educator, and I don't like an experimental, even if it was voted in, hope or voucher system that is going to funnel or channelize money away from our public education. We have 3 pots of money, federal, state, and we only have control over the local element of that pie of the money. And that the Hope Scholarship can work with proper accountability if it's used for academic purposes, and if it has good student outcomes in math and reading and the science of reading, that I am all for. It may have an unintended benefit in that maybe we will not have to build other schools so rapidly, but according to Dr. Bishop, it's going to be a little bit of a problem for us. It's escalating in growth, and it's pulling off students from our beloved public education schools. So can we have it? Yes. Should we control it better? Yes.
Ms. Skinner?
Okay, there are 3 huge topics in there with one question. Special ed, grossly underfunded. In Jefferson County, we pay $11 million locally over what the school aid formula gives us, which is totally unacceptable. As far as the school aid formula goes, right now in West Virginia, we have 7 county systems that are under state control and 2 on watch right now. And the reasons for their intervention is typically driven by financial mismanagement, such as operating far above the school's aid funding formula or administrative infighting. So the school aid formula is very antiquated, it needs to be redone. The Hope voucher, if you want to homeschool or send your children to private school, I 100% believe in that if you're doing it for the right reasons. Unfortunately, statewide, 70% of our students that are homeschooled were truancy issues the year before they went homeschooled. And so if parents are pulling them out for the wrong reasons, and my niece is a victim of this in Texas, because my ex-sister-in-law pulled her out, homeschooled her, didn't do anything, and she went back into public school, my brother got custody, and she was 2 years behind. So if you're doing it for the right reasons, that's a good thing. If you're doing it for the wrong reasons, I have a big problem with that, because the children are the ones that suffer.
Ms. Friend?
I think the scholarship is definitely a leveler of opportunity. However, I agree with Ms. Skinner in the fact that we need to keep a handle on it. We need to keep a handle on who's using it and making sure they're using it for the right reason. I appreciate parents' choice to do what's best for their child. I agree that parents know what's best for their child, but we also need to make sure that they're actually being educated. And I definitely do not like that the funds are able to go out of state. It is personally offensive to me when I see those Facebook ads. So West Virginia has enough trouble with our money. We definitely need to keep it inside the state.
Ms. Gugulis?
Funding formula definitely needs to be revamped. It is antiquated, as others have said. In Jefferson County, our costs are higher. We might have higher income, but we also have costs that are higher, and our teachers have the opportunity to just go across the state line and make a much better income. So I think the whole thing needs to be looked at. I know on my tax bill, I get a surcharge to help out the schools. And so we need to know where that money is going here and make sure that it is actually helping our schools. As for the Hope Scholarship, I would want to take a look at why do so many people want to take advantage of that? What's going wrong that makes them feel like they need to take their kids somewhere else? Rather than just say no to it, let's give everybody the opportunity to get the kind of education, because some kids learn differently and might need a different environment to learn.
Okay, next question. How would you handle conflicting directives from the state related to vaccination requirements? And why don't we start with Ms. Ogden on this one?
So we have seen this in many other issues, and I think the best way for us to handle it as a school system is to allow the state to fight it out. We have a policy, we will follow the policy that we have, and when the state figures it out, they let the Department of Education in the state of West Virginia decide how they want to write the mandates. They hand the mandate down, and we follow what the State Department of Education says that we do. I think in my opinion, it's pretty simple. We don't need to make up our own rules. We don't need to do our own thing. We follow the same policy guidelines that we have. And so while the state is figuring out what they're gonna do and while they continue to fight over it, we will continue to follow the current policy that we have and wait for the next round, if you will, to see if it changes, and then next year it may change again. But that unfortunately are the boundaries in which we are given, and that's what we should follow.
Ms. Bratton? And that microphone, they said, talk a little bit louder if you can. I neglected to mention that Susan Pipes is taping this, and it will be available on YouTube later for people that want to watch. So sound is important, right, Susan?
Okay. Is this loud enough? Is this good? Okay. So, yes, we will follow our policy that we have set up. The superintendent actually sent us an email concerning this, and as the state makes changes for the vaccinations, we will follow those changes. But it's like Ms. Ogden just said, we have a policy and we must follow our policy as far as vaccinations. Thank you.
Mr. Seiler?
Well, ditto to all that, just gonna use my loud voice. It seems to me that we have to obey the law, right? It's paramount that the students, the teachers, the entire community be safe, and that we have these mandated vaccines. If the parents wanna opt out, well, maybe the public schools, not for them, but as far as I'm concerned, vaccinations are a must. We're talking about public safety here, and we must obey the law.
Ms. Skinner?
Yeah, vaccines are not a local school board issue, it's a state mandated issue, and so we just have to, we're just kind of waiting and waiting and waiting until they come up with their decision, and once they come up with their decision, that's what we have to follow. I mean, we can't go rogue and make our own rules.
Ms. Friend?
I would always advocate for the safety and health of the students, but like everyone has said, we have to follow the law.
Ms. Gugulis?
Well, let's make it unanimous. You have to follow the law. But, you know, parents have the right to lobby their legislatures to get the law changed too. So that would be in their purview to do.
Ms. Elliot?
I agree. I'm not gonna go after that. That's pretty good. You have to follow what the policy is with the board, and you all have a policy there, and sometimes it just kind of lulls on with the state. And unfortunately, we probably have to field questions to those parents about these vaccines, so that might be something that we could prepare ourselves for.
Okay, here's a question from the audience. Jefferson County Schools held a very, but sadly necessary emergency drill today. Given the current epidemic of school shootings in this country, what are your thoughts and intentions for safeguarding our children? And why don't we start with Ms. Skinner first?
Well, safety first, end of story. You know, when we were in school and we had fire drills, it was not something that was fun or something that you want to think positively about, but it was a necessary evil. And these kind of drills are necessary and they're important and they're successful. We had this drill at Wildwood Middle School today, and we involved, you know, from local police to school administration to the FBI to, you know, our own students participated, the ROTC participated, the med ed students participated, our 911 program, the students that are training to be 911 operators, they participated to get real life experience. So it was a positive event for a very traumatic potential. And that is one thing that we have never had to face in Jefferson County, and I hope to God we never do. But it's better, you know, better to be prepared than not.
Ms. Friend?
I know I received all the alerts, which good job on all the alerts that came through to warn us that this was happening and that our students weren't actually in danger. But so I would of course advocate for the security and safety of all of our schools. I have fussed at more than one delivery driver as I'm going in and out of the school that they are to be buzzed in, right? And follow the rules. Don't just hold the door for somebody, that's me. But I think advocating for our students' mental health and trying to get to the root of the cause is also advantageous.
Ms. Gugulis?
I was able to sit in on some presentations by some of the schools at the school board meeting the other day, and one of them mentioned that they have a camera system which is new, which is great, except they need cameras for all the doors. And then another also mentioned that there are a lot of doors in the system, and kids will go, you know, hold them open for their friends or whatever. So I think the system needs to take another look. There's also a possibility of hardening the entrances so that, you know, should somebody decide they want to break in for some reason, that it makes it almost impossible for them to do it. But that's gonna take money and it's gonna require budgeting for that.
Ms. Elliott?
I think absolutely to do assessments to find out where we are up to code for the schools, because I was at the same meeting and learned that a lot of the doors would not lock in one of the schools. And that would be just, you know, bringing that up to code, bringing the cameras up, and those principals did ask for those. So just kind of doing an assessment of what is working in other schools and how you kind of bring it to the safety level, and then trying to do that. But assessing them first to find out where the schools in Jefferson County are as far as safety goes.
Ms. Ogden?
Part of the bond that was passed added a couple of entryways, because some of our schools, you go in and there's double doors and some of them didn't have that. So again, we're constantly looking at schools and ways that we can make them safer. You have to have those double entries if at all possible. So they are adding those. We do work with the local fire departments and obviously the police officers. They have labeled the buildings in certain ways so that they know which doors or what if they get a call, so that they can go in. We may not recognize them, but that's on purpose so that not everyone else recognizes them. We do teaching drill, or teacher shooting drills, where at the beginning of the year, sometimes we'll have, like an active shooter drill, and we actually fire rounds inside the schools with rubber bullets. That can be very confusing, but we want our teachers to know what that sound is if they hear it and they're at the other end of the building. Adding badging systems to every single entranceways. We are working on a loop to make sure that all the doors have those. Continual cameras, we do have a specific fund for that to make sure that we continue with those cameras. We put SRO officers, that was also part of the bond, to add them now in the middle schools. We will have SRO, security resource officers, in every building, middle and high, which we do have 2 now. And then as well, we voted lastly to turn our old building, was the OLC building, now is going to be a brain center for the local emergency folks, so that they can see all of our buildings and know exactly what's going on at all times, because yes, safety and security has to be number 1.
Ms. Bratton?
Thank you. So, oh, what a positive event we had today. We have voted for the Delaney building to house cameras that will be watched by employees at all times. And Jefferson County Schools has been working on bringing cameras into the schools, because transparency, we do have schools that don't have working cameras, all of them working. So we need to have all working cameras in our schools. That's a must. So Jefferson County Schools is working on this, because we do want to make sure that we keep our students, our teachers, and our parents, everyone safe who come into our schools. So again, I think it was a very good event today. Thank you.
Mr. Seiler?
Hi there. So school safety starts with creating an environment where our students feel secure and supported. And if they feel secure and supported, their parents have, and everything is going to work better. And that includes all these physical safety measures that the board is talking about, but also building strong relationship between students, staff, families, those staff resource officers. In my school, I've seen how important it is for the students to feel understood and supported. Often they will tell you about problems before they become a problem. We also need very clear procedures, regular training, which should be standardized, and coordination with local agencies. That is very important when something bad happens. Safety isn't just one solution. It is indeed a system, and it works best when it is proactive and not reactive.
Okay, I'm gonna combine 2 questions from the audience here, and it has to do with sports. What is your stand on removing sports from middle schools? And we're gonna start with Ms. Bratton on this one.
Thank you. Well, I am a sports mother. I played sports myself through middle school, before middle school, through middle school and high school. My boys both have played sports in middle school and high school, so guess what? I am not, and I do mean not, I'm not for eliminating our sports of any kind in our middle schools. Thank you.
Go ahead, Ms. Ogden.
As well as Ms. Bratton, I was an athlete myself. All 4 of my children were involved in sports and are still involved in keeping themselves active and healthy. And the most impactful statements that were made at the meeting last Monday were from our students, especially our middle school students, who were speaking from the heart and saying that, you know, this keeps me in school, this keeps my GPA up, this gives me a reason to come here. Basically, this is what I have. Please do not take this away. And again, that to me was the most powerful. I do believe that frankly, what differentiates us in the public education system are athletics, the arts, and how well we can do our academics. So I don't believe that we need to or should get rid of that. I think Berkeley County, as of right now, does an intramural program. They do not have middle school sports. I do not think that is necessarily the way to go either. I think we are gonna have to, again, funding is everything. But we're gonna have to find ways to do that and solicit more parent support. I know the communities are way behind it, and I love how passionate people were when they showed up. So I think that we need to keep that, and I'm definitely supportive of middle school sports.
Ms. Elliott?
I would advocate to keep it. I think there's a connection between mental health and exercise, mental health and connection at schools. So this is a very important thing to keep, and I would also add physical education daily, like a physical education class, if we could do that, advocate for that. But definitely the sports, I would keep in there.
Ms. Gugulis?
Oh,
I agree. I think that sports is an important component of learning. I think it teaches different skills, like teamwork, support, and builds relationships. I was talking to a gentleman this weekend who said when he was in school, he didn't care so much about the academics, but he really enjoyed the sports, and that's what kept him in. Later on, as he overcame some learning disabilities, he was able to focus more on building a successful business. So I don't think it's always the academics, although the basics are really important. I think you learn a lot through the sports, and the physical education is good in terms of helping mental health also.
Ms. Friend?
I would also advocate for middle school sports or anything that keeps our students in school. I mean, I feel like physical and mental fitness are extremely important, but also the leadership skills that they develop as a team and just the sense of community is also important, and we want them to carry that into our community.
Ms. Skinner?
Sports in general are incredibly important to our students, even middle school sports. I mean, all 4 of my kids played middle school sports. I went to lots of middle school sports games as a parent. It helps keep kids motivated, to keep their grades up, to stay in school, to show up to school. It has school spirit, it does teach leadership. One of the things that happened recently was everybody kind of jumped into the process of the budget being put together, and they had to go ahead and list out some of the things that they were cutting. And they've since then figured out a way to keep middle school sports. These kids in middle school were traveling on buses to Morgantown on Wednesday afternoons, and that's a lot for a middle schooler. So what they did was they sat down and they sat down and figured out a compromise. And now we're gonna play, games within 60 miles and, play possibly Virginia schools instead of going to Morgantown or wherever they are going in West Virginia that has middle school football. So, they've ironed it all out, and I 110% support middle school sports.
Mr. Seiler?
Well, it's so awesome. I love sports in middle school. I wrestled, was proud of my little JV letter, and I don't want them to cut any of the wrestling positions. I've been talking to parents about that. They've been crying to me. It's the foundation of leadership for a lot of these young men and women, getting along with people, teamwork. It helps people keep their grade above C, because my coach would stare at me and say, if you don't make a C, Seiler, you're gonna ride the bench. I say we keep the sports.
Okay, this is another question from the audience. What specific actions can we take to protect diversity and prevent further segregation as more students and funding shift out of the public school system? Ms. Friend, let's start with you this time.
I'm gonna need you to repeat the question.
Okay, what specific actions can we take to protect diversity as more students and funding shift out of the public school system?
I feel like I'm gonna need some follow-up questions on that. Okay, I mean, as far as, what do we mean? Or do we mean like what? Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering about that too.
Okay.
If anybody wants to
I
amend the
know.
question, yeah.
What specific things can we do? I mean, we're following the laws and the procedures to not discriminate, obviously. But as far as, I mean, advocating for disadvantaged persons, is that what we're looking for here? I mean, that's a,
Maybe across the board.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Okay, I mean, that is what I would do. I feel I would, advocate for anyone who needs it.
Ms. Gugulis?
Yeah, that's a hard question to answer. You know, as you look at the demographics for the different schools in the county, they're all a little different, but they're fairly good. So I'm not sure that some students leaving the system is going to change that balance all that much. But we should always, of course, make sure that everybody feels included and is respected and are treated with dignity and respect. And that goes throughout the system, not just the students, but the parents and the teachers also. So, you know, I really advocate that we have a standard of conduct and how we treat everyone in the school system.
Ms. Elliot?
I would agree. I think in my perspective, because the demographics are, if we're talking about race, they are predominantly Caucasian in Jefferson County. So if, to move it over to equity would be the education, to make sure that the people on the mountain are receiving the same education as the one in Charlestown. So I think we advocate for everyone. I think that we're here saying that we are going to advocate for every child. I'm gonna be representing, or would like to represent Harpers Ferry, but I would be representing every child in Jefferson County. So that's what, I guess, one way that I would make sure that diversity continued. It's just a continued advocate, you know, I'm advocating all the time, and so race doesn't pop into my mind like that.
Ms. Ogden?
I would say that we will continue to, as we do now, our HR department actually reaches out to different HBCUs as well as other universities to try to make sure that we can bring in as many diversified teachers as well. We want our staff to actually match our population as well. So we want to make sure that we give, you know, all people the opportunity to be able to do that. So we will continue to do that. Also, there was one other thing, I just left my brain. Oh, we also have a program where we bring in teachers even from other countries. So we have a teacher from the Philippines, or maybe a teacher from Taiwan or Thailand. Again, we want to make sure that we have a diverse staff so that they reflect the people in the seats, and also be able to give children other experiences as well that they may not ever get if they decide never to leave their zip code, maybe, which happens. So we'll definitely try those two things for absolutely sure.
Ms. Bratton?
So as we advocate for all children and all staff, this is something that, of course, the board does across our county. I just want to say that in a perfect world, we don't have diversity problems, but in reality, this is what we have. And this is what we have to continue to work on and continue to fight for and continue to bring in our diversified teachers and service staff. So once again, like, I implore everybody on the board to continue this fight. Thank you.
Mr. Seiler?
Well, I want to take a positive spin. I think when we're dealing with so many nationalities moving into Jefferson County, we have to respect their individual culture. Culture is very critical, and it's very special to the different, their heritage. We have to allow people to celebrate their culture. And so we have World Diversity Day in our high school. We get to eat their food and learn a bit about their language and their custom and their dress. And finally, we learn from each other. We learn each other's languages. We learn to respect each other. And this creates a holistic culture that can create a dynamic workforce where people get along with each other.
And Ms. Skinner?
Well, in Jefferson County, all are welcome. I mean, we have one of the biggest ESL populations in the state. You know, the state as a whole is not very diversified, but I think the Eastern Panhandle is a pretty good diversity representation. This reminds me of something that we learned at our very first school board orientation meeting where there was a speaker there and he talked about this, I believe it was an ice cream factory, and it was about blueberries and how, you know, these private schools can take only the plumpest and bluest and freshest and smartest blueberries that they wanted, you know, take the cream of the crop, and the public school gets all of the other blueberries. So we just have to make sure that our school is strong enough and supports students enough between academics, arts, sports, everything, and future, you know, future success. I mean, we've got some really great successful graduates out there that we want all of the blueberries to come to Jefferson County, not just the leftover blueberries.
Okay, we're gonna start with Ms. Gugulis on this one. How do you recommend handling bullying?
Well, I mentioned earlier, the importance of having a standard code of conduct, and that goes across, you know, just the whole student population as well as teachers and parents. And I think that's the first, is establish that, and maybe even let kids help develop what that should be. I think then when people support what they help create, then that would put a stop to a lot of bullying that might be going on. But if it does go on, I think the system also has to deal with it, and there has to be disciplinary measures.
Ms. Elliot?
I agree. The bullying seems to be a huge issue for kids returning back to school, is what I'm seeing in Maryland. So I don't know if that's occurring so much in West Virginia. But I do think that there are ways to work with bullies. The bully is going through something as well as the student that they're bullying. So if that is happening, I do think that peers can also kind of resolve the issue, but we do have to start working on conflict resolution and problem solving in school. We are running into situations where people are feeling like victims very, very easily, and they easily can turn with just a name call. So I think the way to resolve it is to start teaching the conflict resolution, the problem solving skills, as well as peer involvement. To see if we can move it a little bit further, because some kids aren't returning to school because of it.
Hey, Ms. Ogden?
Honestly, this issue breaks my heart. We obviously have policy in schools, in West Virginia schools, and we obviously follow policy. Different staff members may handle that differently based on how well they know a child, how well they don't know a child, whether they may know what's going on with that child that no one else does. To Ms. Elliott's point, whether it's the bully or the one that is being bullied. I agree that I do not think until we get to the bottom of what those issues are that we're ever gonna get ahead of that. Some students don't even report the bullying because they don't want to be seen as weak, or they don't want anybody else to know that it's happening. Instead, they retreat to their rooms and they don't come out of their rooms, and they stay on their phones and they get more and more depressed. So I'm thankful we do have, actually, the first SOMO department in the state was created here in Jefferson County. I'm thankful to some of the staff members, even I see in the audience, who work very, very hard to try to help each individual child when those issues come up. So we have a lot of work to do, in my opinion, on the social emotional aspect of students before we really get to the end of bullying, because it's not handled like the schoolyard like it used to anymore. That's not a thing. So,
Ms. Bratton?
I would suggest conflict resolution. We also have policies set forth in our county that we need to make sure that the policy is being followed as far as bullying. But I believe that if we continue to show our students love and to encourage students, the students who are being bullied, and then the students who are the bully, I think that it will take a lot of work. It has taken a lot of work, and we're not at the end of this. We're still closer to the beginning than the end, and trying to figure out how to fix this problem. I know it's not just here in Jefferson County, it's a worldwide issue. And, once again, I never want to pretend like I have the answer, to every problem or the answer to every question, but I will continue to look into, seeing how possibly we can, come to a conclusion or get closer to one.
Mr. Seiler?
Well, we've moved to bullying. Is that the question? Is that where we are?
How do you think bullying should be handled?
Well, I think we should put that student under a behavior contract with real consequences. I'm a special ed teacher, I'm gonna pick that person up. I'm gonna contact the parents. We're gonna do a study on that child. We are also going to make sure that they are in a safe environment. We have an alternative school if we must. There is a procedure to go through that. But the important thing is students and parents, it is a paramount thing that we must have safety for our children. And there has to be an end to it. It's against the law, we all know that, and there's gotta be real consequences and hopefully correcting the heart of that child before it's too late.
Ms. Skinner?
Bullying, it's been around since forever, I think, but we have some programs in place to help that, to understand why a child might be acting out. We've got one program called Handle with Care, and it's to understand that if a child comes into school and they're acting out and, you know, not behaving properly towards other students or other adults, it may be because, you know, mom or dad was arrested last night, or, you know, they saw one of their family members OD, or, you know, whatever the tragedy might be in that child's life, to help understand and to protect that child that day and give them a little grace. We are fortunate in all of our schools to have guidance counselors in all of our schools, and that's something that the state doesn't think we need. That's a position that's over the formula, and that's funded with local funding through the excess levy. And social media is just, social media, I don't even know where to begin with that. I mean, I get bullied on social media. So for, you know, a child to deal with bullying on social media, that, I don't know how they do it. So we really need parent support in, you know, limiting children's access to social media when they're young, because they're just not equipped to handle it.
Ms. Friend?
I think supporting our students' mental health and teaching them communication skills is very important. But I also think we should be we do have as you know, a standard code of conduct, but I also think we need to empower our principals and teachers and stand behind them as they enforce it.
Okay, Mr. Seiler, we're gonna start with you on this one. Should there be more oversight to homeschooling? Does the school board have any oversight to homeschoolers now, or regulations? What's your opinion on that?
Well, they must achieve the same results through standardized testing as any other person within our general education population within our public schools. So we've had a good relationship in the past with homeschooling. There might be some of these hybrids and pod schools that are genuine competition. In my opinion, as long as they don't come back to the public school like Dr. Bishop says and say, hey, we want our kids to run in Jefferson High track, you know, we're gonna hit them with a fee, $250 athletic fee or whatever. They wanna homeschool, fine. Achieve the results in math and science, but don't come back to the public school with your hand out and say, give us, you know, access to your lab equipment and 3 sports.
Ms. Skinner?
Once again, homeschooling, if it's done right and for the right reasons, I 1000% support it. I think that they should be held to a standard that they're at least learning on grade level and with their peers. We a lot of times get students that were homeschooled come in and the parents are writing their grades on, you know, a napkin and saying that they got an A in math, an A in English, and we have to accept those grades. There's no documentation as to what that student achieved. We just take mom or dad's word for it that that's what they got and that they're doing swell in school. Once again, homeschooling, if it's done for the right reasons in the right way, that's fine. still remember being in the board office one day and a high school girl came in and said that her parents were gonna be pulling her out of Jefferson to homeschool. And she asked the front desk where she would go for her free and reduced lunch. And I just watched the girl's face, you know, like melt because of the fact that the secretary there had to tell her that, honey, you're now homeschooled and we don't deliver, you know, free and reduced lunch to your home. I mean, it's now on mom and dad to provide lunch for you. And so that's just an example of it being done poorly. And I know there are lots of examples of it being done well, but just do it for the right reasons.
Ms. Brand?
Homeschooling works for many families and it can be done well. It is just that sometimes, like we're all concerned about the education standards being met of these curriculums, as well as sometimes it's truancy, right? We feel responsible for these children and their safety. And sometimes the homeschooling allows a child to fall through the cracks, and that is something that we need to be vigilant about.
Ms. Gugulis?
I believe the homeschooling standards are pretty well set. It's going to be up to the parents then to make sure that they're meeting those standards. It can be very successful. I've known people who've homeschooled their kids all the way through high school, and then they go off to college, and I said, well, how they're doing at college? And they said, she's acing everything. So it can be very successful. There's a reason the parents, you know, decide to homeschool instead of putting their kids into a regular school program. And you know, I think it has to meet whatever the parents' desire is for their child's education.
Ms. Elliott?
Can I use that one?
Sure.
I feel like I'm whispering over here. I agree, absolutely. There's a reason people are pulling their kids out and they're homeschooling. There's a reason for that. It could be a mental health issue, it could be the child learns better virtually, and I understand the high school does have a virtual school that is very helpful for kids. The homeschooling, I believe they should be tested as our kids are 3rd, 4th, 5th, and I believe for the math and the English as well. I believe they should be tested if they're homeschooled, just to make sure, you know, they're on track. There's a reason why they left public schools, and I think if public schools started to improve, they are improving right now. There's a lot of work being done by our teachers and our support staff. But if they improve more, I think that you would see less of the homeschooling situation. I think nobody wants to pull their kids out, but if they're pulling out for mental health reasons, that might be a good enough reason to pull out. But I think they'd return back.
Ms. Ogden?
You could.
So 2 very specific examples of homeschooling in Jefferson County, both of which I had experienced myself. I have multiple friends. The co-ops in Jefferson County, I have to say, are great. The homeschool families, it's great. They do some great work with the students. They have great opportunities. I do agree, I think it is fair to, especially with the Hope Scholarship and other monies, if you're gonna take those monies, then yes, you should be coming in to take your 3rd, your 5th, your 8th grade testing. We need to make sure that we do have accountability on that, and right now we do not. I think that's fair and equitable for all students. The last thing I would say is, I also had an experience where I had a friend of my daughter's who was an acquaintance and she was having some trouble. She had a friend who the mom, from the bullying issue, right, when 6th grade was pulled out. This child was up all night watching little kids so mom and dad could run drugs and was not doing any schooling whatsoever. So because there was not the oversight and there is not the oversight, we don't know if that child still has a 6th grade education or not, and she's now in 10th grade. At that time, she was in 10th grade. So we need better oversight on that for the parents who aren't doing what they do, but most of the co-ops in Jefferson County are phenomenal.
Ms. Bratton?
I know that oftentimes there are families that pull their students out because of certain things that go on in our schools, but I also know of 2 families where it's just a positive thing. One family has 6 children, one family has 7 children. So both parents were teachers, the mothers were teachers, the fathers go out and work, the mothers stay home, and they homeschool their children. Their children are very smart. What I believe should happen is that each year, if you homeschool is fine, but you should have to bring your children to the school at a certain point at the end of the year so that they can take a test, so that we can make sure that they're ready to move on to the next grade. And as far as playing sports, these children do come into our schools and they do play sports and they do well, and we do welcome them. So thank you.
Mr. Seiler, did I think you wanted to?
Yes, I believe so.
You started, sorry, lost track there. Okay, all right, next question. How do you feel about developing a foundation that would boost the school system's extracurricular programs? And let's start with Ms. Friend on this one.
I know, I feel like I need to follow up with some questions here. What kind of foundation are we talking about? Like a monetary foundation?
Yeah, I think that's what they're leading to.
Okay,
Yeah.
yes, so this is another example about how we'll always have questions to get to the bottom of things. I think that is a wonderful, it's a wonderful idea, and I would look forward to hearing more about it. I mean, I am a 4-H member, leader, all that kind of thing, and we have something similar with our 4-H foundation that pays for scholarships for camps and all kinds of things. So that very elementary model could definitely be expanded to do something like this.
Okay, Ms. Gugulis.
Agree, I think it's a great idea. I think about all the resources we have in this county, in the businesses, the other volunteer groups, organizations, and all the talent that we have. Parents want to bring that to the community and help foster these extracurricular activities with the kids. I think it's a great idea.
Ms. Elliot?
I agree. The parents that I know there was a lot of talent. There's a lot of, people working on cars and people farming and things like that. They would love to come to the school and help with that. And that's the natural resources just right there. That wouldn't cost us, anything, but I would definitely advocate for that.
Ms. Ogden?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. We do somewhat have kind of a start of that, if you think about it, when you look at all of the PTO groups and whatnot, even at the elementary level, they get together, they raise funds, they provide playgrounds, they do extracurricular activities for fairs or things that are happening. They are already helping to do that. When you get to the middle and high school, you have the booster groups and they already do that. So to be able to have something where they can all do that together, or a foundation where you can provide those kinds of funds would be great. My only concern would be to make sure that we think through how we don't overtax our local businesses, right? Like right now, if we have, 15 different people going out and asking the same business for the same kind of donation, that's taxing on our local businesses. So yes, 100%, I think the foundation is a great idea, but we would need to think about some parameters to make sure we protect everyone in the community as well.
Ms. Bratton?
I believe that developing a foundation would be a great thing. As Ms. Ogden just said, we do have our boosters, we do have our PTOs. I think it's a great idea if we can do it per school. Because if we take it, if we had a foundation and it was for every school in the county, then we have to decide how we divvy up this money. And then there becomes other issues. So I believe that it's a great idea, but Jefferson should have their foundation, Washington, so forth and so on, so that everyone has money to spend. And we just have to make sure that it's being spent the right way. Thanks.
Mr. Seiler?
Well, I mean, the skeleton of these things are already in place. We have the foundation of the boosters, the car washes, the fundraisers. The business and the community are just rocking along. It's really exciting. And I think if we give them the freedom and the incentive, that they will come up with even more ideas to help our students achieve great success.
And Ms. Skinner?
I believe there is a Jefferson County Schools Foundation that has been defunct for many years, so, I think we just need people to go ahead and reinvigorate that and start it back up again, but I think the actual groundwork has already been set. As Ogden said, you know, the PTOs, the boosters, they all support their specific sports or their specific schools. We also have the McCormick Fund, which supports Jefferson and their band program and their arts programs and their extra science things and things like that. And then at Washington High School, I haven't checked in a while to see if it happened or not, but I requested that the cell phone tower revenue that we get from out there went into a fund for the school to spend on how they wanted to spend it. I'm not sure if that ever took place or not, but that was supposed to have taken place.
Okay. What are your views on limiting or preventing access to books by subject, sometimes referred to as book banning? Ms. Ogden, you want to start this one?
Sure. So I definitely don't believe in book banning. I don't think that's ever a good idea in history. That's never quite worked out. So I would not say that. I would say that I do think content of some books is not appropriate for elementary level. Some of it may not be appropriate for middle school level. I think also having the transparency to make sure that there's a book list, that all parents can view the book list and they can decide for themselves if they like or don't like something. And if they don't, they are able even today to call in and request that their child not receive that book or not have access to that book. It doesn't honestly happen very often. I thought it would happen a lot more when we started having those lists be given out or able to access the list. But I think that the transparency is the key. We need to keep it transparent. These are the things that we have. These are the things that we do. All of our teachers do now send those lists out of every book that a student is going to be reading or whatnot throughout the year, so that they have a heads up on that. And then if a parent has a problem with that, they can come in and address that as well. So giving parents perspective and opportunity is important, but I don't think that book banning is the way to go.
Ms. Bratton.
So I don't believe that we should ban books, but I do believe that we should make sure that we have appropriate books. We should continue to produce the lists that we do produce for the parents to be able to make a decision as to whether or not this book is appropriate for their child. If you feel that it's not, then you should be able to come to our board, excuse me, or go to your teacher and say that it's not, and we should respect that. Thank you.
Mr. Seiler?
Thank you. I don't believe in a general book ban. I think that all reading has to be age appropriate, and you don't want to be maybe using the Sound and Fury to ninth graders. That's just not going to work out well. So it has to be age appropriate. It has to be meaningful to their learning and their age of development. We do have a school list, and parents are welcome to look at that. We have transparency with that, and we want to make sure that they have a foundation in culture and understanding what it means to be part of our wonderful county here in Jefferson County, and not to go off in strange things that could be inappropriate.
Ms. Skinner?
Transparency and parent access is one thing. You know, parents have a right. It's their child. It's not our child. If they decide they don't want their child to read something, we can't say, yes, they're going to read this. I mean, if there's an assignment by a teacher and the parent doesn't want to read the book, they can have an alternate assignment. I do not believe in book banning at all. And it's not just age appropriate, but it's also child appropriate, because of the fact that you might have a 7th grader that's reading on a 10th grade level, but they're only like 8th grade mature. So you have to look at the whole child, not just their age and their reading level, but the child as a whole. And hopefully their teacher knows that. When my son was in 7th grade, he hated reading, and Mr. Carpenter, who who's now passed on, but he was a wonderful teacher, and he got my son to fall in love with reading. That was the best gift ever. And I said, Mr. Carpenter, I don't know what you did, but you created a miracle here, and now he doesn't leave the house without a book. And he said, Mrs. Skinner, you just don't know what 7th grade boys like to read. I said, I guess not. So.
Ms. Friend?
I don't support any sort of book banning. As my children have moved through the system, I've always received the list, right? I've always looked into the book if I was concerned. And I mean, one time I did have questions. My teacher got back to me. Everything was great. They did offer an alternate assignment. So I think there is a real system in place, and if parents are concerned, there's an avenue for open communication about that.
Ms. Gugulis?
I agree that there are books that are appropriate and there are some books that are not appropriate. Having seen some school systems, not in this state, but in other states, where there were books that I thought were really inappropriate for a 3rd grader or for a 1st grader to read, I do think that parents need to have the list and have access to it and the opportunity to opt out if something is inappropriate for their child. So it's good to hear that that goes on here.
And Ms. Elliot?
I agree. I just keep thinking about all those times that, you know, books were burned. And I'm not for, you know, for banning books. I do think we need to have age-appropriate books and have, there's laws of what children can be exposed to. And I don't think that public libraries or our libraries should be carrying books that cross that line. I think that that's the protection that we're responsible for when it comes to our kids, is allowing parents to make the decision. As long as the parents can make the decision whether they opt out or not, I think it's okay to leave them, but they have to have the opportunity to opt out if they want to. And some states, I think Virginia, they didn't, so.
Okay. We had more questions, but we wanna wrap it up. So we're gonna give you all each a minute to do a wrap-up statement. And let's start with Ms. Gugulis.
Well, thank you. You all have a hard choice. There's some really amazing people sitting up here, and I was privileged to be able to participate with all of you. I'm bringing a little different perspective from a career in the federal government. I supervise large organizations. I work with many outside groups. I think I can bring the same skills to the Board of Education position if I'm elected. I look forward to it. I really believe in this community. I want to see our children thrive. I have the academic background that they can do anything that's possible within their talents and skills. And I will commit to doing that and working with parents and teachers and with our students. So on May 12th, please vote for Kathy Gugulis.
Ms. Elliott?
I think I bring a different skill set as well. As the social worker, I have a clinical license both in Maryland and now West Virginia coming shortly. But I do have a lot of experience working with children and their families. It's been my focus for years now to do really, really well at it. And I think that I could bring like that talent to the Board of Education. I'm a team player. I hear everyone out. I listen to what's going on, what's been happening. And I do have kind of a different take on what's going on at this point right now. And I think it's related to mental health, technology, physical health, and academic health. And I do think that Jefferson County Schools needs more support. And that's what I think I could bring to the table.
Ms. Ogden?
I'll go this way.
I would just say I'm extremely grateful to the citizens of Jefferson County who have elected me to the board since 2014, and I'm grateful for the things that we've been able to do. I would say we obviously still have a lot more things to do. I love this job. I love to see students successful. We have a lot to do and work with the legislature still. I feel like there's almost a change in the winds, if you will. We absolutely must have increased staff salaries. If we don't, we will die on the vine here. So that is my push as we move forward. It does take a team effort. There's gonna be some very, very tough decisions that we have coming down the pike. I think we need to get very creative and look at how we educate students. I do believe it's gonna have to change if we are gonna stay effective. And so I look forward to those things. We get a strong superintendent, and I look forward to trying to be able to make those changes for this community and work with community and business partners and staff and students. So I would ask for your vote on May 12th and early voting if you choose to continue that good work. And I thank you for the trust and support that you've given me so far. Thank you.
Ms. Bratton.
As the late Reverend Jesse Jackson said, send me. I want to get into good trouble. I have been sitting at the table for you for the last 4 years, and I would love the chance to continue to sit at that table. If we want to see a change, if we expect to see a change, we have to be the change. In order to do this, we have to do it through empowerment, accountability, and fostering trust. President Barack Obama once said, "No matter how difficult things become, I will remain committed to it, because abandoning unity is parallel to abandoning one another." So let's keep the unity in our community. Let's just not talk about it, let's be about it. I would ask you to please vote for me on May the 12th. Thank you.
Mr. Seiler.
In my classroom, I see students who just need someone to take time to understand them and how they learn and what they're facing. And that's why this work is so meaningful. If I could just go on and to the Board of Education. And it's not just the students, it's the teachers, it's the service staff, the aides, the family, everyone who is working together to make our schools here in Jefferson County a place where students are accepted and love to learn. Now, if I could just get them off their cell phones. I care deeply about the whole system working well together. When it does, schools become places where students actually want to be. So I'm committed to our schools and doing the work with care, attention, and respect for everyone involved, and I thank you.
Ms. Skinner.
Being a school board member, I call it the most time-consuming, energy-sucking, almost volunteer, but important job there is. But I truly enjoy it. I feel like I'm making a difference for those kids. I want to thank you for your support the past 12 years that I've been on the board. If there were a Board of Education bucket list, we have managed to check quite a bit of those items over the past 12 years, from 2 teacher strikes to COVID to state mid-year funding cuts to teacher tragedies to student tragedies. The best day of the entire year is graduation and getting to shake those hands of those kids as they walk across the stage. That is the most, I can't even describe it, because some of those kids struggled to get there. And that may be their most important day in their entire lives that they remember. But anyway, I just want to thank you for your support so far, and I'm asking for your vote next Wednesday with early voting. Unless you're a procrastinator, then I'll take it on May 12th. So, thank you very much.
Ms. Friend.
I want to thank you all for spending your evening with us here and being a part of our community. My pledge is that I will listen, I will do my due diligence, I will ask follow-up questions and use my ability to advocate on behalf of our students, teacher, and staff. I definitely appreciate your consideration. Early voting, as she said, starts on next Wednesday at 393 North Lawrence Street, the county building, and or at your regular polling place on May 12th.
Okay. Thank you all for coming, and thank you, audience, for coming too. And that wraps it up.